The corrupt sheriff held up the badge, looked at it, dropped it in the dirt. "This means nothing here," he said. He was talking to the old man standing in front of him, the old man who had ridden into Odessa on a white horse that morning, the old man who hadn't said a word yet. The street was full of people. Every single one of them looked away, because they had learned in 2 years under Sheriff Doyle that looking away was how you survived. The old man looked down at the badge in the dirt. Then he reached into his coat pocket, not for a gun, for something that made Sheriff Doyle's face go completely white. This channel tells the stories of the men who carried the law in their bones long after they stopped carrying the badge. Subscribe now. You need to see what Cal pulled out of that pocket. West Texas, 1884. The town of Odessa had been afraid for 2 years, not the kind of afraid that makes people run, the kind that makes people quiet. Cal Briggs had seen that kind of quiet before. 30 towns in 30 years, always the same quiet, always the same reason. Cal was 61 years old. He had been the sheriff of Crockett County for 28 years. He had ridden into more bad situations than he could count. He had walked out of all of them. Not because he was fast with a gun, because he was patient with people, and because in 28 years he had learned exactly one thing that mattered. Bad men always made the same mistake. They underestimated the cost of what they were doing. Cal had retired 3 years ago, not by choice. He had arrested the son of Senator Aldridge for murder, had the evidence, had the witnesses, had everything. The case was buried in 3 weeks. The son walked free. The key witness disappeared. Cal had set his badge on the judge's desk without a word. He had been riding since. No destination, no plan, but some habits die hard. And Cal Briggs had never once ridden past injustice without stopping. He had not planned to stop in Odessa. He had been 2 days north, heading nowhere in particular, when he saw the smoke. Not the smoke of a fire, the smoke of a burning farm. Cal rode toward it. By the time he arrived, the barn was gone. The farmhouse was still standing, barely. A woman stood in front of it with 3 children behind her. 6 men on horseback watched the barn burn. One of them wore a badge. Cal stopped his horse at the edge of the property. He sat there for a long moment. The man with the badge noticed him, rode over. "Move along," the man said. "County business." Cal looked at the burning barn, at the woman, at the children. "What kind of county business burns a family's barn?" Cal asked. The man with the badge looked at him carefully. "The kind that's none of yours," he said. Cal nodded slowly, the nod of a man filing information. He rode into town, found the hotel, and started asking questions. What he found took less than an afternoon. Sheriff Wade Doyle had been running Odessa for 2 years. Before Doyle, Odessa had been a quiet town. After Doyle, Odessa had been a quiet town. The difference was what the quiet meant. Before, quiet meant peace. After, quiet meant fear. Doyle had a simple operation. He identified properties worth having. He manufactured reasons to pressure the owners. When pressure didn't work, accidents happened. When accidents didn't work, he used the badge. 11 families had sold in 2 years. 3 of them had not sold by choice. Her name was Ruth Calloway. 44 years old. Her husband had died 8 months ago. A riding accident, the official report said. Cal had read enough official reports in 28 years to know what that phrase meant when Doyle signed it. He found her that evening. She was cleaning the outside of the farmhouse with water and a rad, cleaning soot off the walls that were still standing. Cal dismounted. "Mrs. Calloway," he said. "My name is Cal Briggs. I'd like to talk to you if you're willing." She looked at him, the way women in her situation looked at strangers, measuring, waiting. "Are you one of Doyle's men?" she asked. "No," Cal said. "Then who are you?" Cal thought about how to answer that. "I used to be a sheriff," he said. "A long time ago." "Used to be doesn't help me much right now," she said. "No," Cal agreed, "it doesn't." He stood there. Didn't push, didn't explain further, just stood. After a moment she said, "The children are inside. Come in if you want coffee." Cal followed her in. The inside of the house told the story more clearly than anything she could have said. 3 children. 8, 11, 14. The oldest boy had the specific expression of someone who had decided to be older than he was. The 2 younger girls had the specific expression of someone waiting to be told it was going to be all right. Nobody had told them yet. Cal sat down, drank the coffee, and listened for 2 hours. Ruth Calloway's land had something Doyle wanted. Not the farm itself, what was under it. A surveyor passing through 6 months before her husband died had mentioned casually that the geological formation under the south pasture was consistent with oil deposits. Her husband had mentioned it to exactly one person, a man he considered a friend. That man had mentioned it to Doyle. 2 months later, her husband was dead. 6 months later, her barn was ash. Doyle had come himself that morning with a piece of paper, a transfer of deed. He had asked her to sign it. She had refused. The barn had burned 2 hours later. "What did Doyle say when you refused?" Cal asked. Ruth looked at her children, then at Cal. "He said I had 1 week," she said. "After that, he couldn't guarantee our safety." Cal drank the last of his coffee, set the cup down. "When did this week start?" he asked. "This morning," she said. Cal nodded. "All right," he said. He stood, put on his hat. "Don't sign anything," he said. "What are you going to do?" Ruth asked. Cal thought about it. "I'm going to go introduce myself to Sheriff Doyle," he said. He found Doyle the next morning, in the sheriff's office, behind a desk that was too large for the room. The kind of desk a man acquires when he has confused his office with his throne. Cal walked in without knocking. 2 deputies looked up. Doyle looked up. Cal was 61 years old in a worn gray coat on a warm morning. That was the point. "Help you?" Doyle said. "Maybe," Cal said. He sat down in the chair across from the desk without being invited. Doyle's eyes narrowed slightly. "This is the sheriff's office," Doyle said. "You sit when I say sit." "I've sat in a lot of sheriff's offices," Cal said. "Never needed permission." Doyle leaned back, studying him. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Cal Briggs," Cal said. "Should that mean something to me?" "It might," Cal said. "I was the sheriff of Crockett County for 28 years. Doyle smiled, a smile of a man who is just determined there is no threat in front of him. "Was," Doyle said. "Was," Cal agreed. "Then you're just an old man passing through," Doyle said. "Passing through," Cal said. "Mostly." A pause. "What does mostly mean?" Doyle asked. "It means I stopped to visit Mrs. Calloway yesterday," Cal said. A smile left Doyle's face. "That's county business," Doyle said. "I know," Cal said. "I've been looking into the county business." Doyle stood up. Behind Cal, the 2 deputies shifted. Cal did not move. "I think you should ride on," Doyle said. "Today." Cal looked at him for a long moment, then he did what he always did in situations like this. He gave the warning. "Sheriff Doyle," he said, "I've been doing this for 30 years. I know how it ends. It always ends the same way." "How's that?" Doyle said. "With the man behind the desk in a cell," Cal said, "or in the ground." He stood, put on his hat. "I'll give you until Friday to make the right choice," he said. Friday came faster than Doyle expected, not because of the calendar, because of what Cal did on Thursday. He spent the day talking to people, not loudly, not publicly, one at a time. The blacksmith who had lost his forge lease 18 months ago, the widow on the North Road who had signed a deed she didn't fully understand, the school teacher who had witnessed something she had been too afraid to report, the doctor who had signed 3 accident reports in 2 years that he hadn't believed then and didn't believe now. Cal listened to all of them. He took notes in a small leather journal. He did not promise anything, he did not threaten anything, he just listened and wrote. By Thursday evening, the leather journal was full. Cal sat at the hotel table with a lamp and read through everything. 30 years of experience reading evidence told him one thing clearly. This was enough. Not enough to guarantee anything. Nothing in life guaranteed anything, but enough to matter. He sealed the journal in an envelope, addressed it to the district judge in Austin, addressed a second copy to a newspaper in San Antonio, addressed a third copy to a name in the federal marshal's office he had known for 20 years. He left the envelopes with the hotel owner, with instructions. If anything happened to Cal before Sunday, mail them all. Then he went to sleep. Doyle came to the hotel at 7 in the morning, with 4 men. Cal was eating breakfast. Doyle walked to his table and stood over him. "You've been making trouble," Doyle said. "I've been having conversations," Cal said. "Same thing," Doyle said. Cal took a sip of coffee. "Sit down, Sheriff," he said. "I don't take orders from retired." "Sit down," Cal said again. Something in the tone. Doyle sat. The 4 men stayed standing. "I have a journal," Cal said. 31 accounts, 12 of which constitute clear criminal conduct. Forgery, coercion, at minimum 2 counts of what a jury would call murder for hire. Doyle stared at him. "Those are copies," Cal said. "The originals are already on their way to Austin, San Antonio, and a federal marshal who owes me a favor. You can't prove." "I have 11 witnesses who will testify," Cal said. 2 of them are women who have nothing left to lose. Those are the most dangerous witnesses there are." Silence. "Here's what happens now," Cal said. "You release the deed to Ruth Calloway's property in full today. You resign your position effective immediately. You leave Odessa by sundown. If you do those 3 things, I will recommend to the judge that the investment focus on the men above you rather than on you specifically." Doyle leaned forward. "And if I don't?" he said. Cal looked at him, the look of a man who has had this conversation before, in many rooms, with many men. "Then Friday becomes a very long day for both of us," Cal said. "And I have more patience than you do." Doyle stood up. He was not a stupid man. He had built something in Odessa over 2 years, but he was looking at a man who had been doing this since before Odessa existed. A man who had made copies. A man with federal connections. A man who was eating breakfast calmly while 4 armed men stood behind him. Doyle reached into his coat. He pulled out his badge. He held it up, looked at it. "This badge," he said slowly, "means nothing here." He was not talking about his own badge. He was talking about the one he knew Cal carried. The one Cal had never stopped carrying even after setting it on the judge's desk 3 years ago. He dropped his badge in the dirt of the hotel floor. The room was completely silent. "You have no authority here, old man," Doyle said. Cal reached into his coat pocket, not for a gun. He set a folded document on the table. Doyle looked at it. His face went white. A letter, dated 2 days ago, signed by the federal marshal in Austin, appointing Cal Briggs as special deputy with full authority in Ector County, pending investigation. "I rode in without authority," Cal said quietly. "I don't have that problem anymore." Doyle left Odessa by noon, not alone. His 2 senior deputies left with him. The other 2 stayed. Came to Cal that afternoon and said they had taken jobs because they needed work, not because they agreed with what Doyle was doing. Cal looked at them for a long moment. Then he told them if that was true, they could prove it by spending the next month helping Ruth Calloway rebuild her barn. Both of them did. Ruth Calloway's deed was restored by the county clerk the following Monday. The surveyor came back. The south pasture contained what he had suspected. Not a fortune, but enough. Enough to keep the land, enough to give the children what their father had intended. The schoolteacher testified. The doctor testified. 11 of the 31 accounts became part of a formal investigation that would take 2 years to resolve. Cal did not stay for the resolution. He never did. On Thursday morning, he settled his bill at the hotel, rode to Ruth Calloway's farm. She was on the porch with the 3 children. The oldest boy was already working on the frame of the new barn. Cal stopped his horse at the gate. "You're leaving," Ruth said, not a question. "Yes," Cal said. "You could stay," she said. "This town needs someone." Cal looked at the badge she had picked up from the hotel floor. She had cleaned it, was holding it out to him. Cal looked at it for a long time. Then he shook his head. Keep it, he said. Give it to someone who's going to stay. He tipped his hat, rode north, the white horse moving slow and steady down the main street of Odessa. One or two people stopped to watch him go. The quiet in the town was different now. It would take a while for people to remember what the other kind felt like, but they would remember. Cal Briggs did not save Odessa because he was faster, or stronger, or younger. He was none of those things. He saved it because he stopped, because 30 years of doing this had taught him that the hardest part of justice is not the confrontation. It is the patience before it. The listening, the writing things down, the making of copies, the understanding that bad men rely on good people staying quiet, and the willingness to be the one person who refuses to stay quiet, even when it is not your town, even when it is not your problem, even when you handed in your badge 3 years ago and have no official reason to be there. Cal Briggs carried that badge in his coat pocket because he had learned something in 28 years that no one had taught him. The badge was never the authority. The authority was the decision to act. The badge was just the reminder. Some people need the reminder more than others. Doyle needed it most of all. He learned too late that the man across the desk was not the retired sheriff. He was the decision that never retired. Cal Briggs rides into another town that stopped asking for help. This story is a work of fiction inspired by the men who carried the law long after the law stopped carrying them. If it stayed with you, subscribe. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever done the right thing when it wasn't your problem to solve?